I've had an idea for a video series that I've been wanting to try for a while. The idea goes a little something like this. I asked ChatGPT to give me a game to play. This idea in and of itself isn't quite exciting or new, but then I thought, what if I asked ChatGPT to give me a challenge to complete while I play the game? Hello, my name is Coderp, and I'd like to put this idea to the test. And I thank you for being along with me on this journey. To begin, the prompt I gave ChatGPT was to give me a random game that came out during or before 2006. The game I got was Half-Life 2. Now, despite Half-Life 2 being one of the most popular games of all time, I've never really played it, but that's absolutely perfect for the sake of this video. Next, I asked ChatGPT to give me a silly challenge to do while playing the game. The response I got was to complete as much of the game as possible without jumping. The brilliantly ironic name that ChatGPT has given me for this challenge is Gordon the Parkour Master. Alright, before we begin, let's set up some ground rules for the no jump run of Half-Life 2. I was going to make a shitty joke here, but this one writes itself. Rule number 1. Throughout the course of my run, I'll actively avoid using outside resources such as Google or YouTube. But if I get completely stumped on an obstacle, I'll probably end up using an outside resource. If this happens, I will let you guys know. Rule number 2. In order to avoid accidentally jumping, I'll be unbinding my jump key. This one's a pretty straightforward rule. And lastly, rule number 3. Any progression I make cannot be the result of a mod. However, I can use bugs, exploits, or clever use of game mechanics. Alright, those are the rules for the challenge, so without further ado, let's unbind that jump key and get this run started. When I first gained control of my character and started moving around, a sort of realization hit me that I had to be very careful about where I move my character. I could easily put myself in a position that would be hard or impossible to get out of due to my feet being glued to the ground. I'll try to keep this in mind as I play. Within about the first 10 minutes of playing the game, I decided to mess around with the physics to see what I could figure out. Well, it turns out that if I run my character model into objects and spam the crouch key, I can glitch myself on top of objects without jumping. Something tells me that this is going to be very handy. Thank you, Source Engine. I enter a room with a ladder and a bunch of luggage. Turns out I didn't need to wait very long to get to my first obstacle, this window. I've been tasked with stacking some objects to get through it. So after stacking up some crates, I realized this wasn't going to work. There were some objects on the ground floor I thought to grab to help me. But as I turned to go down, I realized I had a problem. I couldn't get back down the ladder without jumping, so I had to restart the entire game. Look, it's not my fault, it's whoever designed the ladder's fault for not taking into account my incredibly niche playthrough. Now Half-Life 2 has an autosave feature, but I don't think I was far enough into the game for it to trigger. I'll just have to manually save every so often. Oh well, at least I learned this lesson early on. Save scumming will probably be a common theme in this challenge, although I will try to avoid it as much as possible. I play the game back to the ladder obstacle and I make sure to save this time. Before fully committing to going up the ladder, I start throwing objects up there that I think will help me climb through the window. Some briefcases, a chair, as well as the crates that are already up there. I fumbled around with the orientation of the objects a little bit, stacking them as best as I could, and utilizing the crouch spam technique. If I glitch myself into just the right spot, I can get through the window and make a soft landing on the box below. Success! The first obstacle and hopefully not a long list of many. After doing this one, I got pretty excited about the rest of this playthrough. After a bit of walking, and pissing off a guard, after I manage to get away, I get to the next obstacle, a dumpster with a ladder above it. Luckily, there's a crate and a piece of wood that some homeless dude left lying around. I can use these to crouch spam my way on top of the dumpster. Nice. I make my way to this crack house where this guy ushers me in. He tells me to make my way to the roof, then the place gets raided by the police. I gotta say, I was not excited at the prospect of making my way to a roof, where there will probably be jumping. Plus I had 5-0 on my 6. Once I made it to the roof, I realized I would constantly be under fire from the guards for this entire section. I make my way across the rooftops, and I get to another window that I have to hop through, and boy was this one annoying. I try to crouch spam my way in normally, but this didn't work, and I'm taking steady damage from bullets. So I backtrack a bit to find this bucket. But of course, when I take it back to the window, the weird architecture of the window prevents me from using it as a proper platform. Then I remembered a little bit earlier when I first entered the roof, there was an attic where there were other, larger objects I could try to use. I backtracked to the attic to find some guards conveniently blocking the way and shooting at me. At this point, in the interest of save scumming as little as possible, I did my best to try and get to the attic anyway. And I succeeded. In dying. After reloading the game, I grab a chair and I make my way back to the window. The chair actually worked wonders for blocking the bullets coming at me. Next time I need protection from gunfire, I'm reaching for a thin wooden chair. And luckily, with this chair in hand, I managed to get through the window. Shout out to chairs. They're going to be the MVP of this run. I can feel it. So we get ganked by some goons, but luckily this woman named Alyx saves us.
Dr. Freeman, I presume.
She takes us to Dr. Kleiner's office, but before going in, I grab this barrel of methylamine just in case I need it.
Jesse.
This is the point in the game in which our character, Gordon, has unlocked his suit. He looks down and realizes that he has hands. We can now see our HP, our shield, and most importantly, we gain the ability to sprint.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
We also get a crowbar. At this point, as the game ramps up, I'm expecting there to be a lot more jumps that I'm going to have to problem solve my way through. I want to get up this platform so that I may make my way onto the train. Luckily, the milkman has left some cartons for us to climb on. This section has been made really easy for me since I've acquired the ability to sprint. I get to this dark stairway and a haunting thought troubles me. So far, the obstacles have been really easy, with random objects laying around that I can use as ramps. What happens when I don't have objects lying around to use? I guess I'll have to deal with it when I get there. This is Gordon Freeman and welcome to Jackass. I've recently committed myself to a no-jump run of Half-Life 2. My name is Coderp, and welcome to episode 2 in the series. So when we last left off, we were at this dark staircase. The staircase led us down into a tunnel. After dispatching some guards, I get to this platform where I have to get on top of an incoming train and make my way to a platform across. Luckily, this part didn't require any jumping. I get to this old beaten down house where I get jebaited by some pickups. I can't get back up, so unfortunately I have to reload the game. When I come back, I realize I can just pick up the consumables, which gives me an idea for this video. From now on, let's keep a running list of insights that could potentially help me in this playthrough, so that you can get an idea of my thought process. So insight number 1 of this video. Consumables can be picked up with the pickup key. However, like my girlfriend, they are immaterial, meaning that they exist in spirit only and cannot be used as physical objects. Moving on, I make quick work of 2 guards. Which leads me into my next obstacle, a broken down fence. Let's talk about the use cases of the objects I've used so far. Barrels are very difficult to get on top of without assistance from other objects, as are large crates. But if I use smaller objects in tandem with these larger objects, I can gain a lot of verticality. Wooden pallets make for very good ramps. However, they're flimsy and prone to moving around a lot if they aren't well supported. So putting boxes under the pallets or other objects make for solid ramps that are easy to get on top of. And using a barrel to brace a wooden pallet, here's what I did. After making my way past the fence, I travel along this tunnel system while getting shot at by some guards. I jump down into a sewer system, and here I discover an important game mechanic. When I'm in water and I get near an object, Gordon will automatically propel himself upwards. It's not a jump, okay, this doesn't count, this is clearly game mechanics. Anyway, moving on, we get to the mother of all obstacles, this fucking cargo container. Luckily, I have access to a lot of objects from the sewers. After fumbling around a little bit, I manage to make it up the first part, but I fall into a pit on the side that I cannot get out of. So I make the connection that I need to have this pit filled before I can attempt to get on top of the container. So I reload and I bring a lot more objects from the sewers, some boxes, crates, and 2 pallets. I also make sure to fill the side of the container. And I'm not gonna lie, I spent an embarrassing amount of time on this obstacle trying different configurations of objects to use. I got close a couple times, but I was finding it difficult to get across the finish line. I head back to the sewer to grab more stuff, but hold on, I broke a bunch of objects by accident. This half pallet piece of wood is grabbable. Did I just incidentally find the solution to my problem? I take the half pallet back to the cargo container just to step on it and find out that it is immaterial. The game further taunts me by despawning it. I get back up to the side of the container and I wedge a pallet in between me and the container. What the hell is going on in this container, by the way? By wiggling the pallet around, here's what I was able to do. Success! That was exactly the leverage I needed to get on top. The alien inside throws some key blasts at me and I head on my merry way. I get to a rather open area and I see some wood I can shoot down to create a bridge. In order to get on top of the bridge, I use a crate to quickly sprint on top of it. I did all this just to find out 20 seconds later that I didn't need to do that because there was an open pipe I could have went through. Have I tried using my eyes? Moving forward, I get to a platform that I need to get on top of. Luckily, some Smash players left the CRT here. Other than being great for retro games, it functions amazingly as a step stool. In the next little area I find myself in, some guards drop barrels on me, and I need to wait for these barrels to explode so that I can get to the next area. There's a little jump I have to make, and while getting on top of the platform is easy, I need assistance with getting into the pipe itself. At this point in the run, I realized my OnlyFans subscriptions were about to run out, so I alt-tabbed the game to renew them real quick. When I came back, I remembered the glorious CRT from the earlier part, so I grabbed that. Unfortunately, Nintendo delivered a lawsuit that destroyed my CRT. I reload and I take the TV down to a little corner of the room to protect it from the lawyers. This works, and I can now use it as the platform I need. At this point in the game, I wanted to do some experimenting. Maybe I would run into new insights. Here's what I found out. I tested to see if an explosive barrel can propel an object away, and it turns out it can. Pretty far in some cases too. Then I tested an object between me and an explosive barrel. This kinda worked, but I needed my HP to be above a certain threshold. I really hope I get to use this tech at some point. As you saw at the beginning of the video, I can use an object such as this trash can to fly pretty damn far. Let's add it to the list of insights. Moving on with the run, I get to some platforms with gaps between them. Just sprinting over this gap didn't work. However, when I sprint over it and crouch in midair, I can clear the gap pretty easily. While I never really played Half-Life 2 before, I did play some Counter-Strike Source back in the day, so I remember a few peculiarities with the engine, one of them being the crouch jump. Anyway, new insight gained. Or old insight, I guess. Once inside the building, I happen across a seesaw. And how I solved this I think was not dissimilar to how you would solve this normally. I simply put cinder blocks on one side, and once it was stable enough, I ran across the gap, making sure to crouch in midair. I kill a guard and I gain access to a new weapon type, an SMG. I keep playing till I get to a pipe I have to traverse. I panic due to an enemy and jump off the pipe, but not to worry, I use some barrels to get back up. Eventually, I get to this vent in the wall that leads to an open sewer type area, aka my room. There's a small little puzzle here where I have to turn a valve in order to raise the water level. Then I have to shoot some boards in order to release these wooden spools that are going to get me to the other side. The problem here is that even when I'm on top of the spools, I can't get enough leverage to get on the platform above. So I go get a barrel, and with some trial and error, I finally managed to make it up.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Welcome to episode 3 of Half-Life 2 No Jump. So when we last left off, we had just overcome a ledge with the help of a barrel. I make my way to this small alleyway with a broken ladder. Here I was able to use a traffic cone to bounce myself onto the barrel, and again to put myself atop the ledge. After a brief walk, I use the carton to cross a small gap and I keep hustling forward. This is the part in the game where I obtain the Mudskipper, a boat that can both ride on water and regular terrain. With the Mudskipper, I get to a gap I have to cross. This puzzle was fairly basic and no jumping was required. After a refreshing time out on the open sewers, I get to a compound. A door is blocking me from progressing, so I infiltrate. Here I get a new weapon type, the hand grenade. I continue my infiltration and smash the doors of oppression open. Back to the sewers. I make a picture-perfect landing on this dock, and then I masterfully pick open the lock. I politely close the door behind me and pick up a magnum before being rudely interrupted.
Stop!
From here, my next jump puzzle wasn't too far away, and it was simply sprinting atop these cargo containers.
Surprise, motherfucker!
I unpark my vehicle and I'm back on the water. I run into a rather simple puzzle to create a ramp for my Mudskipper. To my fortune, some construction workers decided to do their laundry on the scaffolding, so I used this washer as a counterweight for my ramp. Then I meet some Americans who decided there wasn't enough gun on my boat, and they retrofit it with a machine gun. Nice. I get to a pipe that's well above me. Now normally, the way to get into this pipe would be to use the Mudskipper to ramp into it, but that's too easy. Why should I do that when I could make things hard on myself? After experimenting a bit, I discovered that hand grenades really launch the boat. My plan is to throw a grenade under the boat, get into the boat, and then fly into the pipe. This kind of worked, but instead of landing on the pipe where I intended, I landed on some textureless ground above it. No problem, I'll just shimmy myself into the pipe and keep it pushing. I'm now in a wide open area, and a friendly helicopter stops by to say hello.
Double sun power!
After fighting tooth and nail with skillful precision, the helicopter takes me out. I come back and I ask the heli driver this question. Why did the tomato turn red? Because he saw the salad dressing. After that terrible joke took down the helicopter, I get to another door blocking my way. I don't intend to do this the intended way, so I hop over with a grenade. I do retain some control over the boat when I'm in the air, so I'm able to cross over the gap. There's a puzzle here, but I don't really care about it, because as you probably guessed by this point, I'm going to skip it. Man, I love this boat. By the way, I have not looked up anything to figure out any techniques shown in this video, as that would violate one of the rules I set in the first video. Every technique you see here has been the result of my own experimentation, and I intend to keep it that way. Anyway, I'm finally past the water stage and ready to get into the next part of the game. Unfortunately, I was extremely sad to leave the boat behind. I tried bringing it with me, but the feds wouldn't let me, citing something about not wanting a foreign whip on American soil. I meet with Alyx in the lab, and she gives me one of the most important tools for the rest of this run, the gravity gun. Alyx asked me to get on top of this hut, so I build a ramp and sprint across. Unfortunately, the feds received word that I tried to smuggle in a car, and they raid the lab. I'm forced to part ways with Alyx, and I find myself in the very creepy town of Ravenholm. I gotta say, using these saws to slice the zombies in half is very satisfying. I meet a man named Grigory.
You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
After speaking with him for a bit, I get to an electrified fence. Now, normally, the way to get on top of this ledge is to go upstairs in a building and pull a lever across the way to unelectrify the fence. But I decided this was boring, so let's find a different way. At first, I tried experimenting with explosive barrels to shoot myself onto the ledge, but this wasn't going very well. I grabbed two more objects, a large wardrobe and a small drawer. I discovered that if I were to pulse a large object like the wardrobe with the gravity gun while I was on top of it, I could launch myself a fair bit. I couldn't help but get excited at this discovery, as this was exactly what I needed to get to the ledge. After a little bit of trial and error, I managed to use the object top to get atop the ledge. My next obstacle was just around the corner. I needed to get into this window. At first, I tried using a barrel to get through, but this wasn't working out for me. Then I tried using a grenade, but that wasn't working either. So I surveyed my surroundings further, and I wondered why I was even trying to get into this window when I could just object top my way above this wall, completely negating the need to get into the window. I jump down and I go back to where I left the wardrobe. So I tried to get across, and I tried again, and again. It just seemed like there was some sort of invisible wall blocking me from going across that gap, so I had to figure out another way. I reload back to when I got past the electric fence. I tried to take the wardrobe up top with me, but it was too far away to get with the gravity gun. But the drawer was a different story. I was able to grab it rather easily, and it was the perfect object to help me get into the window. I get inside the house to discover that it was a one-way ticket down with no way back up. I clear it out and jump down. At this part of the game, there are some cars I can bring down with a lever. After some surveying of the area, I realized I needed to get on top of the car and make my way across some scaffolding. But I had a problem. In order to clear this area, I needed two separate jumps. One to get on top of the car and another to clear a gap in the scaffolding. And there were no usable objects that I could see nearby. At first, I tried using a grenade, which succeeded in giving me a boost to get on top of the car. However, it left my HP too low for a second grenade, meaning there was no way to clear the second gap on the scaffold. I thought about how I could clear this obstacle without reloading to an earlier point, and then I remembered the drawer I used to get into this area in the first place. But could I even obtain it? I ran back to investigate, and my eyes lit up when I saw a gap in the house directly under the window that I used to get in. So I used my gravity gun to grab the drawer. Now instead of relying on a grenade to push me on top of the car, I can just use the drawer as a platform, and it worked beautifully. Man, the enemies here are really creepy. Grigori gives me a shotgun, and this thing's almost as satisfying to use as the Magnum. Now I have to push a button, making sure to wait for the world's slowest elevator so I don't break my legs. There's a small gap here, but I make it across with a running start. There's a puzzle here where I have to pull a lever so that I can use it to platform across the roofs. I spot some boxes that I have to ramp on top of. Using this propeller to dismantle zombies will never not be satisfying to me, but I can also use it as a ramp. I take it back to the boxes, and it works fairly decently. I wonder what happens if I pulse it with the gravity gun. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting, but I come back with the propeller. Up the first two boxes, and up the third. I go up a ladder with the propeller just in case I still need it, and what do you know, it turns out I do. Across the way I go, and oh no, I just realized the crane was not in position, because it reset when I killed myself with the propeller. I was much too lazy to backtrack and do all that work again, so I decided to find a different way. Let's see what I came up with. So by blowing up a barrel while moving in the direction I needed to go, it was just enough momentum to shoot me across the gap, and I had just barely enough HP to make it work. I meet up with Grigori, who sends a cart my way so I can get across the fence separating us. After getting in the cart and making it across, I realized I had no way of getting out of this thing without jumping. Let's try using a grenade. Let's try using a grenade. There we go, and with 3 HP left to spare. Grigori decides to show me the way to the next area.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent.
Welcome to episode 4 of Half-Life 2 No Jump. I continue following Grigori as he leads me to the unknown. Together, he and I end up mowing through a horde of zombies. Grigori then holds the gate open for me as I make my way through. You know, when I first met this guy, I wasn't sure about him, but after what he does next, he immediately becomes cemented as a Giga Chad in my mind. After Grigori was done Giga Chatting all over my screen, I couldn't help but think that this guy has more sexual encounters than your average person in ancient Greece.
Welcome, my companions. Vesuvius. Staying out of trouble, are we? But of course. By the gods, Vesuvius. Oh dear, it seems I've let my nipple slip. How dare you expose yourself in front of me? Without offering to let me suck on it, of course. Oh, Hermes. I could have your head for this, you know. And my head you shall have, Hermes.
Moving on, I make my way down to a head crab pit. And I've got to say, this place is pretty disgusting. There's so many head crabs here, and they remind me of spiders. I spot some wood across the way that I have to get to. It was an easy enough gap to clear. I simply sprinted across, making sure to crouch just before the gap, which gave me a little bounce. I end up spotting a light at the end of a tunnel. And I gotta say, it was so beautiful out here. Birds were flying around, the sun was shining, and what the fuck is that? Walking along some train tracks, I spot someone or something sniping from a window up above. Let's send a present and see who's sniping. It was John Cena? I start getting sniped at again, so I duck under a truck. A head crab tries to hit on me, but I deflect his advances, making sure to preserve ammo by only using enough to kill him. I kill one of these super guards and I obtain some sort of pulse rifle. It's an okay weapon, nothing really to write home about. I get to a compound where Alyx shows up on a 4K monitor to tell me to go to some prison. Look at this supercar they've prepared for Dr. Freeman, only the best. The magnet operator assures me that she's going to lower me down while I'm in the car. Yeah, bitch! Oh no, that's not what I want to hear right now. Are you shitting me? I'm forced to get out of this car because this Karen tried to feed me to the wolves. But that's not the worst part. Oh no. Watch what she says to me when I try to leave. Karen, I swear I will annihilate you. How dare you take that tone with me after you're the one who put me in this position in the first place? The magnet failed? No, Karen, your brain failed. I'm gonna come back, find you, and I'm gonna in your mouth. After that fiasco with Karen, I find myself back on the open road.
Hello, motherfucker.
Hello, my friend. I'll call you Binky. I end up in a basement where someone hands me an RPG and tells me to prepare for a fight with a gunship. The fight is pretty easy, but I need more ammo, so I duck into a house to get some. Are you kidding me? Move! I'm full ammo, Karen. Move! One last RPG shot takes the ship out and explodes after landing on what is apparently an impenetrable fortress. Let's survey the damages. No, they got Binky! No. At this next part, I have to use magnets to lower a drawbridge. Take notes, Karen. Magnets! Oh! I also have to bring the car up. Notice how there's no one inside the car when I drop it. Alright, fine, let's forget about Karen and move on. And just for future reference, you cannot drive on top of these ships. I find a fancy crossbow, and I like this weapon, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
After clearing out this area, I had to find a solution to this puzzle. Now, sometimes in Half-Life 2, the solution to a puzzle isn't always clear. Some of these solutions can be harder to find than the G-spot. Not that I would know anything about that, of course. But yeah, I figure it out, and now I can keep going. With the help of this drawer, I get on top of some broken stairs. Unfortunately, there really wasn't anything important up here. This whole area is just kind of a bait. There's a bridge here with some broken parts, but if I just take my time and shimmy across, I shouldn't need to jump. There's a gap here, but come on, this is child's play. Who would ever die to this thing? I happen across some platforms, and I want to find a creative way to get on top. Well, actually, if you go outside, there's a ladder, and you can... Shut up, alright? Let me cook, alright? When your friend comes home with a new pan, you don't just tell him that there's food available. You let him cook. No? That's not a situation that's ever happened? Okay. Anyway, here's what I did. I put a trash can next to an explosive barrel, and I got on top of it. I have 4 HP now, which is plenty, so why don't you take your damn ladder and shove it up your ass. With my HP being this low, I have to be damn careful, but don't worry, I have a plan. I just have to become Shroud. You know, realizing I wasn't Shroud was actually a really sobering experience for me. I just don't have the aim. Or the game sense, or movement, or general skill, or the wealth, or the status. You know what, let's just move on. Can someone remind me again what this series is supposed to be about? A gunship appears and it proceeds to start blowing up the bridge. Here's a funny little bug. You can get stuck in these rocks if you get to them quick enough. Let's see what's behind this door. Alright, you know what? I'm not interested. I get back to the car and I play a game of chicken with a train. I get to another area where there's a puzzle and I have to solve the puzzle to let me pass. You know what my grandma used to say about puzzles? They're like assholes. You know what? I'm not sure where I was going with that, never mind. So because I'm a masochist, I don't want to do this the intended way. So let me formulate a plan here. By stacking these ramps on top of this car, I can map out an algorithm that will allow me to calculate the most effective route using Euclidean distance. The closest path from point A to point B using the Euclidean formula. Yeah, I'm just messing with you. I'm just gonna keep throwing my car into the ramps to figure out something that works. There is one insight to note, however. When I charge up the gun on the car and release it, it gives the car a small boost. I can use this to my advantage. Ooh, so close. But I think we're almost there. I reposition the cars and I add a bathtub to the entire assembly. Hey, I managed to do it, but one of the wheels is stuck. No problem, I'll just get out and pulse the car with my gravity gun.
Would you let go of my wheel? Hey, come on! Hey, watch it!
Welcome to episode 5 in the Half-Life 2 No Jump series. I'm your host, Coderp. Last we left off, we were still driving on the open road. I get to a lighthouse where I have to take out some enemies and a ship. I get to a small gap I can simply sprint across with a running start. There's a small ledge. I use the gravity gun to grab a tire, which I can then use as a platform. I engage in a boss fight with a large antlion. This fight is pretty easy, just kite away while throwing shit at it. Some alien runs out and gives me a pharopod, which allows me to become Lord of the Antlions. While others see these things as nasty creatures, I see them as objects that can be walked on. From this point onward, we're trying to break into Nova Prospekt, a large prison. There's going to be a lot of combat moving forward, so I'll try to spare you from that by cutting most of it. After blasting through hordes of guards, I get to a gap on this mountainside. Funny enough, I can make these antlions jump into the water to their death. I see a ledge I can't get to without the help of something to ramp with. So I go down the ladder, and hey, these little shits are in my way. Move. I grab a wooden beam that should allow me to cross the ledge. I take it back and pulse it with the gravity gun to let me on top of the ledge. Immediately after, there's another gap I have to cross, and I'm not really sure if this one is sprintable. I turn around to grab that wooden beam, but I'm too low to grab it. I try multiple times to sprint across. I finally hit just the right angle I needed to shoot the gap. There's another tiny ledge here that looks like I can sprint across, but to no avail. I figured I would try to use my antlions to ramp on it, but this was too inconsistent. So I backtrack a bit and I find a box. With the help of this box, the obstacle was light work. I'm finally within the prison walls of Nova Prospekt. After mowing down a bunch of enemies, I spot an elevated room I have to get into. I grab a chair from a nearby office, and with the help of the chair, I get into the room. Shortly after, I enlist the help of the chair again to get across this pipe. Now I'm in the actual prison itself. Combat here is really going to ramp up. I grab another chair to help get me into a broken down wall. I know I've been using chairs a lot here, but they're honestly very good for getting atop things, and they're one of the most common objects within the prison. After another giant antlion fight, I hustle to remove the garbage blocking my path forward. I spot a mine. Let's go ahead and shoot it to disable it. Oh damn, however will I get past this mine? Oh, that's how.
Weak.
I find myself outside in this trash compactor thing. Basically, I'm on a timer to get on top of a ledge, or I die. With the help of a table and the gravity gun, it was easy. I finally meet back up with Alyx in order to help her break her father out of this prison. This section of the game is extremely combat intensive. By the way, how I've been getting past these turrets is simply by crouching behind an object and knocking them down. After a long turret defense section, Dr. Mossman exposes herself as a traitor. Here's a jump section where the water is electrified. I have to find a way across. First, I grab a wooden pallet to ramp onto some pipes. Then I sprint across a gap to get onto a platform. Next, I pulse a platform to get to another series of pipes. I use the platform to get onto higher ground. At this point, I realized I didn't need to do this part because there's a ladder on the platform that I jumped to earlier. Oh well, we don't like ladders on this channel anyway. I grabbed 2 barrels so I could use them to cross the electrified water. When I reach where I needed to be, I pulsed the barrel to get on top of the ledge. Just out of curiosity, I threw a grenade to see if I could blow this stuff up. Remember, cool guys don't look at explosions. After enduring through another turret defense section, we meet up with Dr. Mossman, who promptly kidnaps Alyx's father. There's one final turret defense section here, but oh my, when it's done, these guys goon squad the entire lab. We're back in Kleiner's lab. With Dog's help, I can move forward. Dog then helps me get into an area which has had the most difficult obstacle of them all so far, a fence. Yes, this fence is the hardest thing I've had to endure in this challenge. For starters, there's absolutely no objects nearby I can use to help me get on top of it. I can't backtrack because this area is closed off from the previous one. It seemed like the fence was just high enough off the ground that any grenade I used didn't provide enough lift to get me on top. I tried again, and again, and again. I decided to survey my resources. I had 80 HP available to me, about 5 grenades, 3 grenade launcher rounds from the SMG, and an RPG round. Surely one of these is good enough to get me across, right? I tried repeatedly with the grenade launcher, but to no avail. I tried giving myself a running start here, thinking that the momentum could carry me. None of my attempts even came close. I tried crouching before launching the grenades, but this more often than not ended up killing me. Then I tried using the RPG, but either it was too close to me and killed me, or it was too far away and launched me at a pathetic angle. When I went back to trying again with grenades, I figured if I tossed a grenade then ran over it, I could use the momentum to carry me across, but this wasn't working either. At this point, I I started thinking about giving up and reloading to an earlier point in the game, but I'm much too stubborn to stop here before I've exhausted every possible solution. There's some amount of rubble on the ground here. I thought if I hit a grenade at the right angle, the elevation from the rubble could be enough to launch myself across. But the angles were too awkward and it was too hard to find the right spot for the grenade, and even when I hit a seemingly good spot, it didn't provide enough launch to get me on top of the fence. Next, I tried picking up a live grenade with the gravity gun. I figured if I pulsed the grenade at the perfect time, I could hit the angle I needed. But with every failed attempt, I lost even more hope. I was just about ready to give up and reload a save, but I decided to stay a bit and see if I could figure out anything else. Hold on. Did you see that? Running into this metal bar launched me a little bit. This is interesting. Let's explore this further. I found that if I ran into the bar and crouched at just the right moment, I could fling Gordon's character model. From here I formulated a plan. If I could catch this metal bar with a sprinting crouch at just the right angle to fling myself near the fence, then I could use an explosive to launch myself the rest of the way. Let's see what happened. This was proving to be quite difficult as I needed several things to go correctly for me and my timing had to be immaculate. Then, I finally got an attempt where my dead body got carried over the fence. I was starting to think that this was actually possible. Look at that, that attempt was good enough to get me across, but the fall damage finished me off. Here's what happened in the next couple attempts. Finally, I had made it across. I was here for over 50 minutes and I wasn't sure if it was possible to make this jump, so I took a moment to breathe a sigh of relief and to celebrate. Let's go. The next part of the game was a lot of ducking in and out of buildings and fighting guards. I find myself in a tunnel with toxic water. I can navigate this place by using a wooden spool and a crate. Next up, I get to a sewer where I need to get on top of some pipes. Then with the help of a wooden box, I manage to make it up on some pipes. I grab a metal toolbox and I use it to get on a ledge. This part has multiple places to climb, so I should keep the toolbox with me. I use the toolbox again to get on some pipes. Some asshole blows up the bridge, so I use the toolbox to climb back up. After going up a long way with an elevator, I realize there's no objects here to use, but luckily I'm just within range of grabbing the toolbox. With the toolbox, I can make my way onto this railing. I drop down to a floor below and meet up with some guy. This is Coderp, and I welcome you to the Half-Life 2 No Jump finale. This episode features Gordon running through the streets like a madman. The rest of the game is a bit light on jump puzzles, with them getting further and farther between. I'm tasked with infiltrating a building where I have to shut off 3 generators and make my way to the roof. That's 1 generator down, and 2 generators down. This next room is pretty interesting. There are several tripwires here, and if I hit any of them, all the doors get closed off, and turrets come out to eviscerate me. I tried to brute force it by running through, but it was quickly obvious that this wasn't going to work. There was nothing in that room that I could jump with consistently, so I went back a bit to pick up a metal desk. With 2 pulses of my gravity gun, I just barely make it up some tripwires. From here I was rather confused and not really sure where to go next. There wasn't really any clear indication of anything, and I still had tripwires to get past. I saw that across the way, the door to the area I needed to be in was open. Maybe I could use an explosive to quickly get through the door before it's shut, but I didn't have enough HP to make this work. One quirk of the source engine is that when Gordon dies, his body flies further from any explosion or impact, so I don't think it's possible. Back to the drawing board. Then I spotted a pipe. I tried to use a nearby mine with the gravity gun to help me get on top. This wasn't providing nearly the amount of lift that I needed, so I took the mine and tucked it into this tight corner. Thanks to that tight space, all it took was crouching and pulsing the mine to get up here. There was another gap I needed to cross here. I gave myself a running start while pulsing the mine before realizing I could have simply sprinted across. Silly me. I turn off the tripwires and I can make my way to the last generator. Several guards try to ambush me here, so I channeled my Counter-Strike experience on them. They never stood a chance. Oh. Man, that was satisfying. Out in the courtyard, I take out a Strider with the RPG, and I keep pushing through heavy enemy resistance. Dog shows up and lets me into the final part of the game, the Citadel. The aesthetic of this area is super cool. It reminds me of modern sci-fi level design, despite being such an old game. There's 2 separate gaps here, and they're really simple. I just sprinted across them. I have my guns taken away from me, but I get access to the most overpowered weapon in the game, the supercharged gravity gun. And man, was I having way too much fun using this gun. I'd heard that Half-Life 2 let you be really overpowered towards the end of the game, but now I get to experience it. Oh, shut up. In my gravity gun fueled frenzy, it didn't even occur to me that I would happen across a jump. I had to backtrack to find something I didn't totally dismantle on my way here. This monitor should do nicely. I take it back and I pulse it, but it didn't send me flying nearly as much as I thought it would with this new gravity gun. It was finicky, but I got past the railings.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
I use one of these energy orbs to take out the Strider in my way. A small ledge here that I can get past using this broken down pod. Then Gordon strategically lets himself get captured. We end up in Wallace's lab, and hey, look at that, the entire family's here. Dr. Mossman finally comes to her senses and stops Wallace from sending Alyx and her father to the Shadow Realm. After we get free, Alyx and I can now chase down Wallace. I get the gravity gun back. At the very top of the citadel here, there's a portal that I have to shoot down with the nearby energy balls. This was rather a simple event to end the game, but hey, something interesting happens after. G-Man appears and freezes time. He talks his shit and leaves while refusing to elaborate. What a Chad. Credits roll, and the Half-Life 2 No Jump series is finally complete. Thank you to everyone who supported my first series on YouTube. I have more video and challenge ideas in the pipeline, so please stay tuned for more content. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.